to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with my buddy Dan Russell Sr. We had a talk the other day that actually went active on my podcast, Think Business, and we had such a good conversation. I asked you to come on. I don't know if it's been a week or two.
Yeah.
Dan is the Director of National Corporate Sales at Trion Solutions. And both of us just kind of found out within the last 10 minutes as we're talking that today is actually Blackout Tuesday, which I think was kind of founded maybe this morning. I'm not really sure about that. But what Blackout Tuesday is, I want to read it so I don't get it wrong. Blackout Tuesday is a collective action by elements of the music industry to protest racism and police violence. The action, organized in response to the deaths of George Floyd, Aubrey, and Breonna Taylor, is scheduled to take place today. So, and so I know we were going to talk business, really kick off and talk business, but I think, it's maybe just talking about the world and people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And John, even as you and I were talking about, before we jumped on, today, I'm not Dan Russell from Trion Solutions. I'm Dan Russell, another concerned citizen, just like you, just like everyone. I think in the last few weeks, our nation is just hurting. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of confusion. And I think our world really needs healing right now. I think we were already reeling from COVID.
Yeah.
I think I don't think there's a single person that we've been able to talk to that has not in some form or fashion been affected by COVID-19. And then as we almost were just starting to get back on our feet as a nation, we're getting rocked by this. And, it's not that it's anything new. Social injustice has been going on for a number of years, not just in the African-American culture, but as a whole. There's a lot of injustice that takes place on a daily basis. But right now, the issue at hand, obviously, that people are talking about is the police brutality and some of the challenges that have been facing the African-American community. And I think in the last few weeks, we've seen so many examples of it, from the Ahmaud Arbery case to the woman who was shot in her home accidentally, to then, of course, George Floyd. And again, it's not that these injustices have been, that it's brand new. It's just now live, right? And I think Will Smith said on one of his quotes, it's not that racism is just now happening, it's that it's being recorded.
Yeah,
and,
I've seen that.
And I think even when we talked, you think about it, 30 years ago, we were watching the Rodney King beating. And I had to even stop and think about that and say, wow, 30 years ago, I couldn't remember. I don't think I had a cell phone. I didn't have a smartphone. I know that. I wasn't able to quick record. So somebody actually had to have a video camera, right then to catch what happened. Now the difference is everyone has a video camera in their pocket. Every riot, every protest, every rally, it's live. The world is seeing it because we have so much access to social media. So I think there's a lot of anger right now. There's a lot of people who want their voices to be heard. And now it's just, what's the message have to be? How do we really bring forth change? How do we really make sure that not only is our voice heard, but our voice makes a difference?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are struggling with who to be angry at. It's hard to be angry at a system. It's also very hard to define people and give a blanket statement. Right. You can't say that all whites are racist. You can't say all police are bad. You can't say all blacks are rioting. It's like the moment you make that statement, you've just disqualified 99.9% of the world.
Right.
There are bad police. There are bad people. There are, it's just the reality of the world. But we have to be very careful to not bring all of those people in together. And I think a lot of people are are also even trying to understand. I even appreciated the other day, my pastor called me and he said, Dan, I don't know what it is to be an African-American man. He goes, and I can't pretend to. He said, so would you mind if I just asked you some questions? I thought that was so powerful that someone didn't try to say, oh, I get it. No, it's okay that you don't get it.
Yeah.
And he asked some very powerful questions. He said, Dan, do you really have fear when you get pulled over? And I said, listen, first off, everybody's a little scared when you get pulled over, right? Am I going to get a ticket? What did I do wrong? Everybody has that fear. But yes, as an African-American male, I have a different fear. I have had a bad experience in my life with the police, with being pulled out of my car. But does that mean that I look at every police officer and think that they're bad? Not at all. Some of my closest friends in the world are police officers that just so happen to be white.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, again, it's still the fear is there. I have to speak to my children maybe differently than somebody else. Now, does that make it different? Well, listen, I'm a father of 3 daughters and a father of 3 sons. I speak to my 3 daughters differently when they go out, and there's a different fear. You would never send your daughter downtown anywhere by herself. You have that fear. But then I have to tell my sons something different. I have to talk to my sons about how to deal with any angry person.
Yeah.
Not just the police. Somebody that you come in conflict with. It's a sad day that we do still have to approach some of the issues we're approaching that my parents had to approach. My mom marched with Martin Luther King Jr. and saw a lot of things happen years ago.
Wow.
That it's unfortunate that today I sat with my wife and my kids on Friday night with tears in our eyes, watching the riots in Detroit and watching some of the anger and the hatred and people throwing things. And it was just so sad for our country, for our city, not just for Black people, but for all people. It was sad. And so the conversations I had to have with my 11-year-old son of why are these people doing this? It's sad to look at my 17-year-old daughter and just see the disappointment on her face. It hurts as a parent. And I think all of us together as people are hurting right now. Yeah. So I think now the answer is first, understanding. That's a big step for all people. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what age you are, where you're from. I don't know if you saw the video of the Flint sheriff that there was a riot or a protest. Let me say it right. A protest that was getting ready to take place in Flint, Michigan. And the sheriff came right out and he said, guys, we're not here to hurt you. Yeah. He said, I put the billy club down. I put my shield down. I took my helmet off. He said, we're here to help you have a peaceful protest. Yeah. He pointed out another sheriff and he said, listen, this guy hugs people. He said, we love you. We love this community as a whole. He said, we just want to know how we can help. And John, the most powerful thing happened right after he said that. The people started to scream, walk with us. And if you watch the video, that sheriff paused. He paused for a moment to think, and I can't even begin to fathom what processed in his head at that moment. But he paused. And then he said, okay, let's walk. Yeah. And so he and all of these other police officers and sheriffs with no gear on just walked. And it was a beautiful, peaceful protest in what some have described as the most dangerous city in America based on crime rates. And it was a beautiful thing to see people come together, let voices be heard. You saw the Miami Police Department, where as the protesters approached, they just got down on a knee and they said, we're not here to hurt you. That one ended in a peaceful protest. So I think the opportunity right now to bring peace to a community, the understanding part. I think people want to know that all of us are listening. I think people want to know that all people are trying their best to understand. You can't expect somebody, Jon, I can't expect you to say, Dan, I know what it's like to be an African-American man. I know what it's like to raise your sons. That would be wrong for me to try to ask you to do that. Right? You can't understand what it was like for me to grow up in Belleville, Michigan, as one of the first Black families in that area, and to walk down the street on Main Street and have things thrown at me and have people, scream out some really bad words as a kid and going, what? And then years later to have my kids in Clarkston, Michigan, walking across the street and have somebody in a truck with a Confederate flag drive by and scream things at them. This happened just a couple years ago. So I can't expect you to understand or relate, but the fact that even you look at what you're doing today, Jon, you as a business coach with this amazing platform. I mean, you look at our podcast the other day, we had a couple thousand people view it in less than a week. So we have this amazing platform. You could say, not my problem, not my issue. You could say, listen, I'm not the guy who had my neck and my knee on, George Floyd's neck. Wasn't me. You can say, not my issue, but instead you've opened up your platform and you've allowed you and I as friends and business associates to maybe help heal in a small way and educate people in a small way. But that's you doing your part. And, myself, I've had several people approach me and say, Dan, when are you going to make a statement? And Jon, I have to tell you, it took me a minute. It really took me a minute because I'm very humbled. I'm very grateful that God's given me the opportunity to have a following. The fact that, you and I can do a podcast that 2,000 people want to watch within less than 7 days time, that's still, it's humbling. I never take that for granted. But at the same time, I didn't want to come out with an immediate statement. I watched my social media. I listened to what other people were saying. My heart hurt when I saw friends of mine or people that were white coming out on social media and saying, white people, we need to do better. No, that's not the answer, because it's not white people that's the problem. It's injustice. It's hatred. It's anger. It's misinformation. Seeing even the people now that are setting some of these fires in communities like Grand Rapids, and now you see the pictures and you hear, some of these people are getting paid to go incite anger and start riots. It's heartbreaking. I saw a video of a woman who was spraying Black Lives Matter on a Starbucks. She was a white woman. There was a Black woman who was yelling at her saying, we didn't ask you to do this. We just want a peaceful protest to get the message out. We didn't ask for this. So I think now the more people that are spreading the message that, listen, it's not everything you see on media. Everything you see on social media isn't true. Every person out protesting is not a thug. Every person out there is not trying to hurt people, but people are hurt. People are angry. This isn't just something that we can turn our back. I think, unfortunately, for years, people are very angry because it's another picture. I think back to when I got pulled out of my car and roughed up by the police pretty bad. I think back that I could have been another picture just on that screen of Black faces. I could have just had my face there. My children could be one of those faces. Even seeing the video of like the gentleman in the park who was bird watching. Here was a Ivy League, highly educated African-American gentleman with a bike helmet on nonetheless. I don't know how much more innocent you can look wearing a bike helmet. And we saw the hatred and the anger toward him. It wasn't just, a female who was upset at a male. It was, she called out, I'm going to tell them that a black man is attacking me. You know, Ahmaud Arbery, we weren't all there. We don't know exactly what transpired at every step of his run that day. We know he was looking at a building that was being built. We know that he then went on a run. We know that he was then chased with a car and gunned down. I wouldn't want that for any American. I wouldn't want that for any person in the world. But this is now, if you think about in the last, and somebody said, and I apologize, I don't remember who said it, but they said that the authorities did not start to prosecute the people in the Ahmaud Arbery case because they saw the video. They did it because we saw the video. People didn't realize that he got shot in February. In March, the video went viral. Then the people were arrested. So when a lot of people are looking for why are people so angry, it's for reasons like that. If someone did not have a video camera out or a cell phone when George Floyd was killed, you don't know that it was 8 minutes and 46 seconds that the officer had his knee on his throat. You don't know. It would be a story. You would hear man killed by police, and we wouldn't know the full story. So I think right now, understanding, I think we really need peace right now. I think probably the most powerful quote for this time is from Martin Luther King Jr., where he said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." So setting fires to buildings, it's not going to help. Busting out windshields, shooting innocent innocent bystanders, police officers that are just there to protect, that is not the answer at all. Looting stores is not the answer at all. I think, again, using your voice, allowing your platform to push people and encourage others to love, to understand, to bring awareness to the issue. Those are all things. And then I saw a great post from Jay Farner, the CEO of the Rock Families and Quicken Loans. And it was a beautiful thing that he posted because he said, you know, he wanted to make sure that all members of their staff feel safe. He wanted to make sure all of them recognized that their voice was being heard. Then he talked about diversity and inclusion initiatives that he was going to continue to push forward. That is where, again, as business people, we have the opportunity to work with other communities, get involved with other communities. Things like you and I are doing right now, this is what it takes to get that message out, to help people become educated, to help people maybe get away from some of the prejudice and racism that exist, because a lot of it exists because of lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
So, you know, John, I think you are doing the right thing. I think there's a lot of business owners that are trying to figure out how can we help, and continuing to educate, continuing to not pretend that the issue doesn't exist. That's a big start. And more than anything, I think whether it's an African-American, whether it's a female, whether it's a young adult, whether it's anyone that maybe in any way, shape, or form can face an injustice, helping people to understand that you do recognize that it's there and that you're going to do everything you can and do your part to help stop it. That is the answer right now.
Yeah. That was powerful, Dan. I appreciate your you know, just everything you said. I appreciate everything you said, and I'm sorry that it's 2020 and that we even have to have this type of discussion today. It's almost it doesn't even seem possible, but we do, and I appreciate you. Because this was kind of last minute. We were ready to talk biz and, you know, but I appreciate your insight. And I think, you know, in general, everything, whether it's business or life, I agree. It starts with awareness. And by you sharing your thoughts, it will raise the frequency and will raise the vibration to allow more awareness in people's DNA and their ears and their eyes. And I just want to comment on something you said, because I agree with you. It's really difficult to fight darkness with darkness, right? Yeah. And darkness sometimes doesn't like the light. And so we really, I think, and again, I say this just, not necessarily from my perspective, but universally, I think I agree with you. We have to find the light and like some of these, the ones that are doing it in a peaceful way where people aren't getting hurt.
Right.
And so, but sometimes I think people are so angry, that's their voice in the moments.
Right. Well, and Jon, you think about our kids, right? So here's an opportunity. I think about how I was raised, and I heard somebody say the other day, and I've never thought about this way. They said, people who say, I don't see color. Well, God created all of these different colors.
Right.
Our world is a beautiful tapestry of all different people from all different backgrounds and cultures. That's what makes our world such a beautiful place. But right now, our kids are watching. So whether your child is 6 or 7 years old, or whether your child is in their 20s, this gives you as a parent the opportunity to make change for the better, because you can talk to your child and say, this is why this is happening. This is, why these people are protesting. And this is your opportunity as a parent to say, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Remember, as a parent, talking to my sons at a very young age when they punched their sister. And I said, no, we don't do that.
Right.
As young men, as older men, it is our job to protect women. We do not hit women. We do not hurt women. Like, that was something that when they were even very, very little, and it was just, I'm punching my sister because she stole my toy.
Right.
No, but that was established then. So now as they grow up as young men, they know better.
Right.
This is our opportunity to help the youth of today and the next generation to say, it's okay to stand up and have a voice. It's okay to protest peacefully. It's okay to push an initiative and try to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
But let's do it the right way, and let's still continue to educate our young adults that this is wrong.
Right. But let me ask you, let's go there for a second, Dan, because I agree with you. These are the parenting moments that we must have. And these are moments where leaders need to speak. These are moments where, this needs to be discussed in the boardroom, right? We've been talking, and we talked a week or two ago. I can't even remember, it was a week or whatever, but, how do you talk about COVID in the boardroom? How do you work with people remotely? I mean, we looked at all those avenues, but now I think stuff like this is easier for many people not to talk about it, right? Get your news from whatever source you get it from, and then don't talk about it. And whether it's parents not realizing their kids don't know how to process it, dissect it, understand it. In a boardroom, in a boardroom at company meetings, it also needs to be addressed. And
right.
Sometimes when you have companies where everybody looks the same and you don't think you need to discuss it, that's when it really needs to be discussed. I've interviewed and have clients who focus on inclusion and diversity. So what do you say to those people, right? How do they even start to shift and talk about it? And who do they reach out to if they don't know what to say?
That is a on-time question, because you have companies right now that are saying, I'm not going to say anything.
Correct.
And listen, I understand why. If you look at any social media right now, I've seen people that have just made one statement. I saw someone that said, wow, what a great thing that happened in Flint where the sheriffs did this. And somebody immediately jumped on their post and said, oh, so we should be celebrating now that, these animals have taken to the street and, they're killing our police. And I'm like, whoa, the person was not even trying to go there. They were trying to bring light to the situation and in a positive message, but somebody else really wanted to take it back down that path. So I think number one.
Can I comment on that for 1 second? I've not wanted to interrupt anything you said because I think it's so powerful. But I think in times like this, we must raise our vibration and frequency. And we need to, remember that it's important to respond and not react. And
Right.
so when you see something, sometimes people react and they post, and then they think, "Oh my God, I can't believe I wrote that, said that, etc." I think in times like this, that is important.
Well, and I may misquote this slightly, but the premise is the same. It talked about in times like this, it will not be defined by the words of your enemies, but by the silence of your friends.
Yeah.
Right now, I know there are people that are just they're silent. I talked to a dear friend yesterday, and he talked about his son, who had a friend that verbally attacked him and said, "Why aren't you saying anything about this?" And it was a younger adult who was white, and he said, I don't know what to say about this. I don't feel comfortable making a statement about this. And it was an African-American friend that got mad at him because he wasn't making any statement.
Right.
Again, people are very fearful to say the wrong thing right now.
Right. When really the conversation could be different, the same as you talked about your reverend calling you saying, "Hey, I don't know what to say," right? Just everybody raise their level of consciousness and just help everybody find the words.
Right. And so, Jon, to answer your question, in the boardroom, there's a couple things now. Number one, it's important for businesses to look around and see, as you said, do all of these people look just like me? That may be okay. Or it may be the fact that you have not opened up opportunities for others, be that female, be it younger adults, be it African Americans, Asian Americans, Indian American. You may look at your company and recognize, I do want a different perspective. I would like to see more diversity. I think successful business owners recognize that successful organizations happen when you don't hire people to listen to you. You hire great minds so you can listen to them.
Right.
I think also you see a lot of companies that are trying to reach different demographics and different cultures, but when they don't have representation sometimes within their own organization, they struggle to reach those different demographics because they don't have that voice.
Right. And many times don't understand why it's not working.
You've got it. I mean, I love sometimes I'll say something and some of my kids will look at me and go, "No, Dad."
Right.
I'm like, "But I thought that was a great idea." And they're like, "No,
right.
No, Dad." And it's so neat because, right, if you try to say something that a young adult thinks is cool and you don't understand, they look at you like you've got a unicorn horn sticking out of your head. I still remember my daughter a few years ago seeing a commercial, and it was 1-800-CALL whoever. And I said, "Do you know what that means?" And she goes, "I don't know. You dial 1-800 and then say call whatever." And my wife and I fell out laughing.
Yeah.
We didn't even understand what we knew as kids, which their letters are the numbers for a reason.
Right.
So here's the difference in age. There's also the difference in culture. If you haven't been in the inner city, you don't understand the struggle. You don't understand some of the things that those people experience on a daily basis. So as business owners in the boardroom, number one, we need to look for inclusion. So we need to constantly address, are we bringing the right people into our organization to accomplish the goals in which we are looking to accomplish as a company? Number two, for the people that we do have within our company, again, that may mean they're African American. It may mean they're female. It may mean that they're younger. Are we giving them a voice? Are we allowing them a platform to share their ideas? Are we allowing, and you brought this up on our last podcast, Jon, Are we allowing them the opportunity to tell us where we're falling short as an organization? Maybe I'm a younger adult and, a 3-day weekend is a really big thing to me. And I'd much rather work 50 hours in 4 days. And that really is what I'm looking for. Well, if I don't give you a voice, you eventually go up the street and work somewhere else where they are offering that opportunity.
Yeah.
And then next, I think companies have to say something. You've seen, my goodness, I saw Nickelodeon come out and do a moment of silence. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that was powerful. Nickelodeon said, we have to say something about the injustice. Right. And somebody has to. You still have to say something.
On that, because I think, we're talking about what to say. You don't necessarily have to come out with a white paper. People don't need to, right? And in that example, right, just taking a moment of silence, I don't know what their intention was, but I'll make an assumption, is just take a moment, get grounded, take a moment, collect, get with your thoughts. Yeah. In that minute, maybe it will spark an idea or something where you can actually just, figure out what you want to do or your piece in it or your voice in it. And so I think, like anything, I'm a big fan of quiet time, meditation. Sometimes if you don't know what to do, if you don't know what to say, just be silent. Exactly. Be silent with yourself and look inward and see where your part is. And I don't think anybody expects each individual to do something that's going to, change the world. But if we all do our little piece and bring a little bit more light and a little bit more love and a little less judgment, then we will raise the collective energy of it.
Well, and John, you think about it, we went from, call it 2-3 weeks ago, celebrating our first responders and our heroes for what they were doing in COVID-19. And now, within a week and a half, you've got people saying, "Oh, police are bad." I said, "Wait, they were just our heroes a week and a half ago." And unfortunately, if someone who's screaming out how horrible the police are go home today and their house gets broken into, who are they going to call? 911. Right now, the police then go back to being your hero again. So you're right, John. You've got to take a moment, step back, really look inward and say, okay, be mad at hatred. Be mad at prejudice. Be mad at racism. Be mad at injustice and inequality. Be mad at that. And then do what you can to make a difference. And ultimately, at the end, John, we can only control our actions and those that we have the opportunity to influence.
Absolutely. I just listened to an interview with Bishop T.D. Jakes, who I just love him. I love him. I listened to a bunch of interviews with him. I've read his book. And one of the things he talked about was, and I don't want to misquote him, but one of the things he talked about is, hopefully when this is all done, we all don't have amnesia like we historically do. And we don't forget the people that many people viewed as non-essential, right, invisible, as essential during this, pandemic. And hopefully we remember them. And so I bring it up so we can just be a little bit more conscious about not forgetting.
Absolutely. And somebody sent me something right before we came on that said, the Archbishop had sent something out talking about when a part of the body hurts, we all hurt.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening right now. We're all one body. And when one part of that body hurts, we all hurt. And I think we're experiencing that now, where you've got young, you've got old, you've got black, you've got white, you've got all different ethnicities. You've got people, having peaceful protests all around the world about this. But, George Floyd's brother came out yesterday, twin brother.
Yeah, talk about that. I watched him this morning and about that. Talk about, because I wanted to talk about that. I think that my heart, my heart feels for all these people. But
yes,
it was talk about that, because I think that was chatting about.
Here is somebody that when you stop and think about it, who has a right to be angry? He has a right. No one can say that he doesn't have that right to be angry. No one can say that he doesn't have that right to want to hurt someone or just take control, because his twin brother was ripped away from him.
Yeah.
And he thanked the people for the peaceful protest. He encouraged people to continue to promote this message and let his brother not die in vain, let his life not be lost with nothing coming out of it. But he also spoke about peace.
Yeah.
And he spoke about, listen, killing people, burning things down, looting, that's not the answer. Yeah. That's not going to bring honor to my brother's life. That's not going to fix this situation. In fact, in many ways, it's going to cause us to go a few steps backwards.
Yeah.
So here is, if there's anybody, right, and you get a lot of celebrities now coming out. Listen, some of the statements are heartbreaking. You know, LeBron James came out and made a post that just said, "Why don't they love us?" And gosh, I read that, tears filled my eyes. But then I had to, this is when, like you said, you have to stop and you have to say, wait, why don't they? Who is they? They is the most powerful word in that statement. LeBron said, why don't they love us? They is not police officers. They is not the white culture. They is not Asian. They is not it. They are defined as people that are filled with hate.
Mm-hmm.
That is that small population. And people may disagree with me, but I choose to make the choice, or I choose daily to believe that people are good.
Yeah.
I choose to believe that people don't want to hate. I have to believe that if somebody does respond with something, it may be out of fear. It may be out of just being uneducated on something. But I choose to believe that most people are good.
Yeah.
And so when George Floyd's brother is out telling people, please continue to speak this message, let's make change, but let's do it the right way, and causing another life to be lost is not the answer.
Yeah.
That's really where those messages need to continue to be spread. And we can't attack others, right? Because, John, if you say, listen, I think people could be just as effective at home on their social media, spreading the message of positivity. They don't have to go downtown Detroit. They don't have to go downtown Flint. They don't have to go outside of Somerset Mall. That's your opinion.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that opinion. And I need to be comfortable within myself to say, that's John's opinion, and that's okay. My opinion may differ, and that's okay. When we can all choose to accept one another's opinions and not attack,
right,
then we'll take that step forward.
Yeah. Seek first to understand before being understood. Copyism, which I love. And one of my favorite quotes you mentioned Martin Luther King Jr. is, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Everywhere.
And I think that takes that makes everything even, more universal. And I think I have really enjoyed this talk with you. It wasn't what I don't think either of us were expecting, but
right.
And I know today is Blackout Tuesday, which we're not supposed to post, but to me, I think this was an amazing talk. I appreciate, Dan, you as just as a human being, as a friend, as a person, as a business person, and thank you for raising the frequency and bringing light to a dark time. So,
well, you're welcome, and thank you, John, because again, if people like you and I choose to black out and say nothing at all, awareness isn't raised.
Yeah.
The message of positivity is not pushed out, and that light that we talked about doesn't shine.
Yeah.
And darkness is just the absence of light.
Yeah.
And so, on a day like today where we are Blackout Tuesday, I think now more than ever, these messages need to continue to be spread. And people like you and I just need to continue to love on all of God's people, continue to be a light in these dark times, and believe that we can make a difference and the world can become a better place with all of us making those steps.
Great. Well, Dan, I appreciate it. This was a special talk. I appreciate it. I do, thank you for your time. Thanks for everything. If anybody wants to connect with you, how can they do that?
So you've got drussell@trionworks.com, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can find me everywhere. Cell 248-219-6360. And, again, happy to connect. And you know what, Jon, actually, you just brought up a great thing. Yeah. Even some of the people that watch your channel to learn how to become better as a business and how to push forward that are working with you. Yeah. I'd even be happy to talk to those people about maybe how they can take steps toward more diversity, more inclusion, and how to just listen to their population. So yeah. I'm happy to do that.
Good. You're a great man, and I appreciate all your time, and we will definitely talk soon. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jon. I appreciate it.